Julia watched as Death put his new toy in a corner. Julia sat on the floor opposite them. What are you going to do with him? Hunter smiled. Consume him. What does that mean? Hunter visibly paused. No one has ever asked me that before. Not even Chuck. Julia shrugged. I want to get to know you better. That seemed like a strange thing to say. Hunter thought. Chuck and I are always in a battle for control of this body. There are things he can bring to his memory that strengthen him. He can remember times when he's resisted temptation, or stopped himself from acting harshly, times when he's done good at great personal cost or given up something he wanted for the benefit of others. These things strengthen him, and if he could sit and meditate on just those things for long enough, he could push me down and control this body with virtually no interference. Julia took this in. So Chuck is strengthened by doing good? Hunter laughed. Hardly. If it were that simple, I could never have taken root to start with. Chuck is strengthened by something much more subtle. Chuck, like all of humanity regardless of their psychic abilities, becomes more psychically powerful when he stops being himself and starts being a part of everyone else. I need to break that. I become more powerful when I break him out of being a part of everyone else. I've done this dozens of ways through the last 2 centuries or so. I've led captains of industry to forget their customers and focus on profits. I've led bureaucrats to pass laws that benefit themselves. It's not always easy, but it's not usually this hard. So killing and torture is just a means to an end, then? You would rather just make him sell pirated music? No, Hunter said with a sigh. I'd rather do the torture and killing. There is a certain safety in the pirated music option you described, but I'm not going to play it safe. I'll take over, then I'll start killing, if that's the only way to go about it. Hunter paused and Julia let him gather his thoughts. That's not the life Chuck and I lived, though. Chuck knew how to suspend me, but instead he decided to destroy me. Chuck knew the good I could bring, that using me in small doses could give telekinetics and telepaths a boost, and then be undone. A little sour to spice the dish. He wasn't going to have it. He was going to kill me and all the good I could do. I had made a deal with his forefathers. I would agree to a purgatory of dismemberment, and they would keep me alive. It was best for everyone. For me. For them. Even for you, my little truth friend. Even you and your mundane friends were safe and cared for by your psychic betters. But that wasn't good enough for holy and righteous Chuck. He wanted me destroyed. Julia couldn't help but feel sorry for Hunter with this description. Whatever else he'd done, he saw himself as the victim first. Then he remembered what fate had said. Weren't you found in a prison? Crawling around in the mind of a murderer? Lies. Hunter pounded a fist on the wall. Did fate tell you that? She was barely older than an infant, and Chuck was the only person, psychic or mundane, that ever cared for her. Wind wanted to mine her mind, Dark Night wanted to hollow her out and have her committed, but Chuck wouldn't do it. I was never in prison. The only one who ever thought that's where I belonged was fate. So you never killed until you were in Chuck's brain? Hunter looked at her with venom in his eyes, but she only looked back with compassion. Of course I killed. Julia didn't let her surprise show. The light in the cell was pretty dim anyway, so she doubted he could read her face. She forgot in that moment that he was a telepath. He sat on his bed. You are suppressing your horror. Thank you. No one has ever done that for me before. But I don't understand. Julia weighed the moment. She pulled herself up off the ground, then sat next to Hunter, putting her hand on his. It's like you said, you had a deal that was best for everyone. My dad told me that everything that exists is good, even if only that it exists. You could give telepaths the power to prevent crimes, telekinetics the power to save lives. There's a cost and a danger, but there always is. Death is brave and strong and pure, but he's also a coward. If you were so bad, why did he give you to his daughter? She needed you. I think we might all need you, if you can be kept safe and secure. Hunter thought on this for a moment. I've been bouncing between brains all over the West Coast for nigh upon 2 centuries that my memories can solidly be verified, and you, my dear, are the first one to ever show me compassion as the hunter. The guard on the ground started to stir. Hunter's smile changed to something more sadistic. Now if you'll forgive me, my dear Truth, I'm hungry.
I think that goes to show how even we authors can totally miss the best parts of what we're writing. Rereading this section after getting this from Kareena, I think this has become my favorite part as well. I will send a copy of my next novella to Kareena to thank her for her input.
Was surprised at the end and how it left almost a cliffhanger. I love Julia's character, how when she shows acceptance and a certain trust of the hunter after he talks openly with her. I feel like in Hunter's way that is almost as vulnerable as we would have him be, then later when he threatens Roger into watching Julia, that's another sign of his vulnerability. I was more interested in knowing about characters and what makes them tick, and why they tick, than about other, mundane items. See what I did there? You satisfied that angle for me in a sense, all while making me think about how we choose to approach or show compassion to those around us in our real lives who makes choices that don't sit right with us or society. How they are still vulnerable and weak.
I had a reader let me know what her favorite part of my latest book was. My policy is that any readers that reach out to tell me their favorite part of a novella I've written, and allow me to quote them in my advertising can get a copy of my next novella for free. Kareena told me what her favorite scene was from my latest book, Trouble with Telepaths.